think we should start first of all by talking to Janet, who has had experience of FGM herself, and I would, reading your background, Janet, I'm intrigued to know why you decided to flee to your auntie, who helped you to avoid FGM.
Okay, as I said before, I'm Janet and I come from Ilchamus community where the practice was so rampant, and I grew up in that, and as an Ilchamus girl I was to undergo that, but I used to attend church and I attended a primary school, and those are the very first places that I heard that the FGM was harmful, and so I decided to be different, and I said, no, I wanted to pursue my education, because once an Ilchamus girls go through the practice, the next thing is to be married off, and I wanted to pursue my education. I didn't want to be married off that early, and the day came when my dad and my mom had prepared for us to go through the cut. I remember while my mom told us not to take anything the following morning because we were to take meat, and the meat was kind of to replace the blood that would be lost during the cut. And so before the day came, I decided to run to my auntie, who happened to be my very best friend, and I trusted her that she would take good care of me. And after some days, my family came to know where I was, and that is when my dad came, furiously not to take me back home, but he came to ask me whether I was still his daughter and whether I wanted to go back to school. I told him I was still his daughter and I wanted to go back home and wanted to continue with my education. But his worry was that if I could drop out of school, I would bring shame, because it is a taboo for a young lady and circumcised lady to get pregnant before she undergoes the cut. And so I promised him I won't get pregnant, I won't drop out of school. And for some time, it was a challenge both from my family and in school. And I went through difficult moments, but fortunately I scored very well in primary. I joined high school, and again there I met people who are not friendly because they regarded me as a child because I was uncircumcised, and I had no friend until 2009 when I was to clear my Form 4. There was a network on FGM that came to my community, and that is how I got to know about the Catholic Diocese of Nakuru through the support they got from the UNFPA office. And we've been going together around the community, creating the awareness. Personally, I've talked to young girls and the Council of Elders, and we've worked together closely with religious leaders, and again with the Morans, who are young men who defend the community. And it has not been easy, but I'm glad I'm now in my third year. I joined university through the help of the UNFPA support and the community network, who held a fundraiser to enable me go through my first and second year. And now I believe the fourth year, I know I will make it. I believe I can go through it, although I have some very challenging problem with fees. And
Janet, could I just interrupt and ask you, I mean, parents love their children, and I think the hard thing is to try and understand how do you persuade parents who believe that the best thing to do for their child is to have her cut? How do you reach them and change opinion in that way? And do you have to persuade the fathers, or do you have to persuade the mothers? Where is the power in the community?
Pardon?
I'm saying parents obviously love their children and think that it's,
Yeah.
but by cutting their girls, they're doing a good thing for them. Do you believe that change comes through persuading the fathers or persuading the mothers, or they both really need to be persuaded?
Okay, I think both of them. It's not necessarily the one part it's neither the fathers or the mothers, but I think both of them.
And can I ask you, in terms of your brothers and sisters, were your other sisters cut, or what happened within your family?
Okay, at my age, because I was 9 years old, my elder sister and myself were to go through the cut, and so because I fled, she went through it. But for the younger ones, the ones who are behind me, I've acted as a barrier to them, and I've explained to them, and I've told my mom and my dad, although sometimes it's very difficult, but what I do most is to talk to my younger sisters and show them the harmful effects of the practice.
And can I ask Molly, is Molly there? Just I'm interested in how you feel you can change communities and where the success has come from.
Hi, yes, I'm here in Senegal. We have, in our experience, felt that it's really important to involve everybody in the community. The parents, the grandparents, the cutters themselves, the religious leaders, everyone in the community has to be involved in this decision, we have found, or it won't be sustainable. If only part of the community decides to abandon and the others don't, there's always going to be a problem between the groups that abandon and those that don't. And beyond that, we even go into all the social network, the communities that surround there or that are any way connected to them because they're relatives, and therefore it would be very difficult for one part of the family to abandon and the other part of the family doesn't. And so we do a lot of outreach, not us, but the participants themselves. They have to learn first. They have to go through what we call the empowering education process, where they learn their human rights, they learn about health, they learn about the problems related to health with female genital cutting. And so then when everybody is agreed in the community and they reach out to their relatives, they come together and they are the ones who are doing the outreach. They are the ones who organize these declarations for everybody to abandon. But it's really not only the whole community, it's the whole social network that we have found needs to be involved.
But Molly, do you feel a sense of progress? Do you feel that there's still 30 million girls at risk now in the world of this? Do you despair, or do you feel that things are moving?
Oh, I'm so optimistic because what has happened is that those people who stood up first, in the beginning, the communities that originally stood up and abandoned female genital cutting were considered very strange in a way, and it was seen as very unusual in Senegal when this happened. And the first 5 years of this process, from 1997 up through 2001 or 2002, there were only a few hundred communities. But after that, the movement grew. It's accelerating. And now in Senegal, there are over 5,500 villages that have abandoned. And recently, we had declarations, we've had declarations in the 8 countries where we're working. And recently in Guinea-Bissau, 144 communities abandoned together. And they said, I asked them, how was it possible that you abandoned so quickly after 2 or 3 years only? And they said, well, it's because we see our relatives in Senegal abandoning, our relatives in the Gambia, because this is a cross-border practice. I mean, the social networks go beyond borders. And they said, when we saw our relatives in Senegal abandoning, we say, wow, this is possible, we can do this also. So I think as the movement accelerates, more and more people are coming on board, and I think it's going to go faster and faster, and I think there is really great hope for abandonment in the next 10 years all across Africa.
Well, Dr. Atif, if I could move on to you and say, so what's happening in Egypt? 90%. It's so high in a country which is relatively well educated, and what do you think you could learn from Senegal?
I think in Egypt the situation is totally unique, because we feel as a policymakers that FGM is a shame for the Egyptian girls. In Egypt, since 2003, we started the national program, and I think we are achieving or progressing to achieve our goals. In Egypt, the 90% is too huge for us, and the practice is all over the country, and we have to reach deeply inside the community. We have to be in direct contact with the families all over the countries, and we feel that this is not easy, because in Egypt it is not the poor, some of the rich, some of the policymakers is practicing genital mutilation, and I think now we have a good experience, but we need to sustain our efforts because now 10 years now, and the situation now is different, and we are looking for or waiting for the results of DHS. But anyway, there is good news, because we are not depending on not only DHS, other researchers give us good signals, because the number of girls is decreasing now, and this is support our work. But still, we have to confess that there is a new challenge now about the new political situation we are facing. And this
Can I just ask you, Dr. Chief, may I interrupt? I find it, do you think that the success stories seem to be the ones that come from the ground up, the kind of work that Molly is doing, or Janet is doing in her own community? Is it a question of perhaps there needs to be a change in strategy, that actually the resource needs to go into at base level, you know, to support groups like Molly, going around and educating and changing the whole tissue of a community rather than from the top down?
Believe me, I don't agree about one strategy. I agree with you that we have to always be more sensitive for the community needs. In Egypt, the community is not one community. Upper Egypt is totally different from Lower Egypt. Frontier governorate is also different. And in Upper Egypt especially, the people more resistant for change. And we know that we have to go through the poor locations, or in Upper Egypt, there are many, in Egypt, there are more than 5,000 villages, and we have to tailor new strategies special for each community, in addition to a national community. But we know where is the problem in Egypt, because for my experience, I am a doctor, I am a physician, and I have a daughter, 9 years, and I have a lot of daughters in my family. And once I decided to stop, this is more than 20 years ago, to stop this practice, all people or families or mother followed my instructions, because they believe that I am saying the right thing. That's why.
For example, may I ask you, a man of your eminence and your reputation, who obviously has a big impact on the women you come in contact with, would there be an opportunity for you to could you go on television and talk about this and say, I'm not cutting my...
Yeah, many times in press and TV, and I know that I am sometimes saying something shocking for others, but once I believe in something, I don't hesitate to tell others about this. FGM
is ready to hear your message. I mean, you know, you can go on national television and say, stop cutting your girls.
Yeah, this happened already. Not only me, my team also. We contact all TV, all media channels, and we all the time saying the same message. But this is not the only thing, because people believe the high community leaders, when they stop practicing this, they will follow them. It is not just to say this is halal or haram, this is forbidden, not religious, not saying this or this. This is not the issue. People, the community is dealing with its issue. The community responsibility is clear here. The problem will not solve it by others. It should be dealt with the community people. People will change each other. Once we start to talk as a community leader, not an official people, because people here in Egypt, most of the time does not agree about what the government say. Sometimes they feel that this is signals or something coming from abroad, and this is sometimes I feel they understand. But now from nearby, from my families and my friends, we are progressing, but it's slowly. We are not satisfying about our progress. We feel that the challenge now is we have to change. I agree with you, our strategy in dealing. But in addition to national strategy, we have to start or tailor a specific. We have a network, a huge network of social change agents working with civil society, and social change agents should be selected from within the same families.
Dr. Atif, if I could just stop you there, because I'm just conscious of time, and I would encourage anybody, Molly, if you've got anything to say, or Janet, to come in. But just before that, Dr. Babatunda from the UNFPA, what Zero Tolerance Day, is that a big achievement, or do you feel that's really a big step forward? Hello, Dr. Babatunda? I don't think we have you there. Do we, Doctor? Maybe if we could move back to Janet at this stage. Janet, what do you think, if you were running the Kenyan anti-FGM strategy in government, what would you be doing?
First of all, I'm grateful to the government because there is a law that has been passed on the issue of the FGM, and that means that there is some commitment from the government. And apart from that, before there was the Children Act that was protecting children who are under 18 years of age, but now the act that has been passed by the government, and especially because it is the members of parliament that do that, it's something that will bring a positive change, not only now, but it's something that will be there forever. Unlike the time when it was the Children Act was protecting a person who was just under 18 years. But for now, it's good because it is something that will cover everybody, irrespective of the age, whether you are young, whether you are over 18 years of age. The Children Act no longer now is of importance, but what is of importance is the act that has been put, and it protects everybody. It's no longer the child, it's no longer a person who is under 18 years, but it's for everybody.
So that has happened. So what is the next step? If you were running the program, what would you be doing? Where would you be putting resource into tackling FGM in Kenya, where there has been a lot of success?
Yeah, okay. The next thing I'd be doing is like reaching those who have not been reached, because I believe here in Kenya so many communities practice the the FGM, and not all have heard about the effects or the harmful outcomes of the practice. Like, for example, even in my community in Ilchamus, the network, the community network has just covered a very small place, and there is a wide area that needs to be reached. Like the other communities, they've been reached, but not to an extent that is pleasing, just to a very smaller extent.
Can I ask you, Molly, how important do you think I mean, is there a mechanism that to train midwives who could evaluate or alert people? Or, I mean, I ask you the same question. Dr. Atif is talking at a very high level in Egypt, at a kind of national level. I'm asking you, if you were running policy in Senegal, what would be your next step on a practical level?
Practical level, and what we have seen to be the most successful and to be the most large-scale impact has been by providing these communities that have, where, as Janet says, people have not been to school often, and if they have been to school, they may not have even learned about human rights and their right to be free from all forms of violence, the right to health, the best possible health.
Hi, this is Cody Donahue from UNICEF, and we are broadcasting live on the Google Plus Hangout page of UNFPA. And Minister Featherstone, we realize that the time is short for you. We would like you to please give us a sense of how the issue of FGMC has evolved as a priority for DFID over the past year. And we realize your time is short, so we invite you to please activate your microphone and go forward.
Okay,
we apologize for the technical inconvenience. We hear you great.
Okay, you hear me. Good. Well, hello. And firstly, thank you to Janet, because I think sharing her personal story makes it really real in a way that the rest of us can't do. I was appointed by David Cameron as Minister to tackle violence against women and girls overseas, internationally. And of course, I feel very passionate about the whole violence against women agenda, of which FGM, FGC, is really a huge part, because in fact it engenders all of the things that are wrong, that women have no power really in this ultimately, that their community, that the religious leaders, that everyone says this must be done, and it's done out of tradition and maybe out of love too. But from our point of view, we've put women and girls right at the heart of our development programs. You know, and part of the issue around FGM is that it is so damaging, it is so harmful, that it means that through health, through depression, for all sorts of reasons, through early marriage, girls are not going to fulfill their potential. They're not going to be able to function. They're not going to be able to be empowered. They're not going to be able to work. They're not going to be able to have children in the same easy way without possibly side effects. And so trying to begin to look at FGC is part of the program of empowering girls. And now, you know, we have this issue in the UK, we have a huge diaspora, and we're tackling it here in many ways, whether it's training for prosecutors, guidelines for frontline workers, midwives, all of those things. But ultimately, it's about behavior change. And in a sense, we need the mother countries to change first before our diaspora is going to do it too. And now, you know, Africa is beginning to lead on this subject. The United Nations have passed the resolution, which is incredibly helpful. Senegal is going way out front in terms of taking this. The Tostan approach is something I'm going to see later this year myself. I'm going to visit Senegal, because that is really, seems to me, a really good example of behavior change, and behavior change that spreads and is spreading very rapidly. And I'm very passionate about this, and I'm committed to playing my parts. But basically what I want to do is learn and come in and support the movement in Africa, to see how we can support what is actually happening in Africa. You know, the time is right. We have an ambition to end FGM in a generation. And we know we in DFID, as as part obviously of the United Kingdom government, will be coming out later this year with a programme to take our work forward. And we're working together with the Home Office, we're working domestically and working internationally to support what is happening in Africa.
Thank you, Minister Featherstone, and we apologize for the late arrival of our new video stream, but I think we're now back online. We appreciate your support and your intervention. I'd also like to introduce the Executive Director of UNFPA, Dr. Babatunde Osotimehin, and he has agreed to join us for the concluding remarks of this virtual panel. Dr. Osotimehin, thank you very much. What is UNFPA's role in promoting the abandonment of FGMC?
Thank you very much. Let me also speak today, which is the day of zero tolerance to FGM. I think it's very important for all of us to give and continue to give visibility to the issue of FGM. I understand that there's been a lot of conversation. I'd like to take the opportunity to talk a little about the global efforts that we have been making at the United Nations. Let me start by mentioning the much appreciated resolution of the General Assembly, which was passed last year, December last year, 2012, intensifying the global efforts for the elimination of female genital mutilation. We actually worked with the governments from Africa and Italy and our colleagues from UNICEF in order for us to be able to accomplish this. And I think that's a milestone achievement. At UNFPA with UNICEF, we have a joint program of female genital mutilation cutting, which is the instrument within the United Nations that enables us to operationalize the holistic approach towards the abandonment of female genital mutilation in the world. And it is the world's largest program for this. And we have jointly implemented this in 15 countries in West Africa, East Africa, and Arab states. And since 2008, we have that joint program has seen nearly 10,000 communities in these 15 countries, representing 8 million people, renounce the practice of female genital mutilation and cutting. And in 2012 alone, we had 1,775 communities across Africa doing so. So, and I think that's really the major thing we've done. And when you look at the demographics, when you look at women in the age of 45 to 49, there's an estimate of about 53% of them in those countries that had female genital mutilation or cutting. And now when you look at the 15 to 19-year-olds, it's reduced considerably to 36%. So we're making great progress. And we've also been able to work with governments in 40 countries in the world to adopt laws to penalize the practice. And some of them are the countries that we're working with in that. And finally, we've also been able to train 88,000 health providers so that they also are upstream in this issue, working in health centers, making sure that we don't have this practice continue.
Great. Thank you very much. And could you speak about what are your hopes for the international community's engagement on this issue over the next year?
I think that just continuing the momentum that we've created would be the way to go. But I think there's a lot more to do. We need to invest more. domestically and internationally. We need to work more with governments on the ground so that whatever has been done will not be reversed. There are still detractors and people on the ground who would rather not have this go on. So we have to continue to work with those. And then, of course, we need to systematize our monitoring and evaluation so that that continues. And I think that we can achieve it if we build capacity and make sure that all of that is. And let me just make a statement to say that if we don't, there is 30 million girls out there who are still at risk for female genital mutilation and cutting. So we have to try to prevent that from happening.
Wonderful. And I see that we have Maggie from The Guardian who's joined again. Maggie, we've essentially come to the end of the panel, and we would just like to wrap up. Could you kind of summarize what the other panelists have said? And we would like to thank the Executive Director of UNFPA, Dr. Osotimehin, for joining us this morning.
Yes, sorry about that, but I think it was a really, really interesting talk. I think to summarize it, I would say that what they were talking about was to work at a local level, that actually persuading people works better than legal sanctions or arresting people. And I think what came across more than anything was that there are extraordinarily powerful groups working really at a base level who seem to have been very effective in changing them, and that lots of resource I think would be useful in those groups to work from the ground up. And then the other thing we talked about was getting coverage for this, getting it on the media. And Janet, who has an extraordinary story to tell of how she avoided being cut, said she found it incredibly difficult to get her voice heard on the national media. And I think we need to look at that in the strategy, because if you listen to somebody like Janet talk, it's just so powerful. But I think there's a problem with media professionals all over the world in how we actually tell stories about this and make it priority. And this is the year when we could really do that.
Thank you, Maggie. So with that, I think we will wrap up the session. We want to thank all of the panelists, and thank you, Maggie, for moderating the session. Thank you, Dr. El-Shitani in UNFPA, who's sitting at UNFPA in Egypt. And we wish you all a very nice evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Goodbye.